The Hyundai Santa Fe has built a strong reputation as a stylish, well-equipped family hauler, and it earns that reputation in more ways than one. But not every box is being checked here, and a few persistent flaws are worth knowing before you sign anything. If you're in the market for a 3-row midsize SUV and the Santa Fe is on your shortlist, here are 6 reasons why you might want to pump the brakes, because we're breaking down 6 reasons why you should not buy the Hyundai Santa Fe. Number 6. Tight third row. 3-row SUVs carry a specific promise. You hand over the cash and in return, you get genuine flexibility. The ability to actually use every seat without making passengers feel like an afterthought. The Santa Fe doesn't fully live up to that promise. The third row is there, yes, but what it's offering in terms of real-world usability is a different story entirely. Passenger volume in that last row is just 33 cubic feet, and third-row legroom checks in at only 30 inches. Those numbers mean grown adults are going to be folded into a space that simply wasn't designed with them in mind. Taller passengers in particular are going to find the experience uncomfortable on anything longer than a short trip across town. Picture a family road trip, grandparents visiting for the holidays, everyone loading up for a longer drive. The moment those adults climb into the Santa Fe's third row for anything beyond a quick errand, the complaints are going to start. The access situation isn't generous either. Getting back there requires some effort, and once you're in, the experience is noticeably more constrained than what the first 2 rows are delivering. If your family regularly needs that third row to carry adults, there are better options on the market. The Hyundai Palisade and the Toyota Grand Highlander are both offering far more livable third-row accommodations, and that gap is hard to overlook when you're paying this kind of money. The Santa Fe's third row is perfectly adequate for kids and short hops, but it's a structural limitation that buyers need to factor in carefully, and it's not the only number here that doesn't add up the way you'd expect. Number 5. Disappointing real-world fuel economy. Fuel economy is one of those things that looks great on paper and can look very different once you're actually driving. That gap between the EPA estimate and what you're actually pumping into the tank is something Santa Fe buyers are going to feel directly in their wallets. The gas model is rated at 23 to 24 miles per gallon combined, depending on trim. That figure is already behind some key rivals, including the Toyota Grand Highlander and Kia Sorento, which both offer hybrid options capable of returning significantly better numbers. The Santa Fe hybrid was supposed to be the answer to that concern, rated at 34 to 36 miles per gallon combined. But real-world testing is painting a less flattering picture. During an extended, long-term, independent evaluation of the Santa Fe hybrid, the observed average came in at just 26.7 miles per gallon, which is well short of the EPA-rated 34 miles per gallon for the all-wheel drive configuration. The best single fill-up during that test reached only 29.9 miles per gallon. For a vehicle that a lot of buyers are specifically choosing for its efficiency, that's a meaningful shortfall that changes the financial calculus of ownership. The hybrid is still more efficient than the gas-only version, but those expecting to come close to the EPA estimate are likely going to be left underwhelmed. And if you think fuel economy is a frustration on shorter drives, wait until you spend a few hours on the highway and start noticing what's coming through the cabin. Number 4. Excessive wind noise. Here's the thing about a boxy, angular SUV design. It looks bold and purposeful on the road, but that kind of shape tends to catch air in ways that softer, more aerodynamic profiles don't. The Santa Fe's squared-off styling is a big part of its visual appeal, and it's also directly connected to one of the more persistent complaints owners and testers are raising. Wind noise is becoming noticeable inside the cabin at elevated speeds. Reviewers and real-world drivers are reporting that the Santa Fe generates more wind intrusion than you'd want from a family SUV in this price bracket, particularly at highway velocities. The problem becomes more pronounced the faster you go, which is a real issue for families spending extended time on the highway. It's worth noting that the Santa Fe generally does a good job of isolating road and engine noise under normal driving conditions. But wind noise is a specific category where the vehicle's design is working against itself. For buyers who do a lot of long-distance driving, this is the kind of detail that compounds over time and starts to wear on the overall experience. But wind noise is only part of the story, because the way this vehicle actually responds when you're behind the wheel raises a separate set of questions entirely. Number 3. Vague steering. Think about the last time you drove a vehicle that felt genuinely connected to the road beneath it. Every input was precise, feedback was immediate, and you always knew exactly what the front wheels were doing. The Santa Fe is not going to give you that experience. The suspension has been tuned for ride comfort, which is understandable for this type of vehicle, but the steering has taken the brunt of that trade-off. The Santa Fe's handling is widely described as numb and aloof. Body roll in corners is noticeable, and the steering itself is offering minimal feedback about road conditions or what's happening at the contact patch. For a driver who wants to feel in control and engaged, this SUV is going to feel disconnected, like you're piloting something rather than actually driving it. To be clear, plenty of buyers in this segment are prioritizing comfort and ease over athleticism, and the Santa Fe is going to satisfy those priorities well. Still, the next problem is more concrete than that, and it's one that affects every single trip you take, not just the ones on winding roads. Number 2, poor rear visibility. Reversing out of a tight parking spot, checking your surroundings on a busy street, or simply monitoring what's happening behind you. These are fundamental daily driving tasks, and the Santa Fe is making all of them harder than they need to be. The root cause comes down to the vehicle structure. Those large rear pillars and small rear window are cutting into sightlines in a way that becomes genuinely inconvenient once you're living with the vehicle. The rear visibility issue is significant enough that it's appearing on multiple expert evaluations as a notable downside. Hyundai is offering technology to help offset the problem. An available surround view camera system, a rear view camera mirror, and blind spot cameras that activate in the instrument cluster when you're signaling. These features are adding layers of awareness that the natural sightlines aren't providing. Most drivers don't think about rear visibility until the moment it becomes a problem. A car reversing suddenly in a parking garage, a child on a bicycle cutting behind the vehicle, a tight parallel parking gap on a busy street. These are exactly the moments when you realize that no camera system fully replaces what a clear rear window delivers. You're relying on technology to compensate for what the vehicle's design is taking away. That's a different kind of ownership experience than driving something with genuinely open sightlines from the driver's seat. And poor visibility is a serious issue, but the number one reason on this list has been frustrating Santa Fe owners for long enough that Hyundai finally had to do something about it. Number 1, gas model's unrefined transmission. For years, the Santa Fe was equipped with an 8-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission. That gearbox drew consistent criticism for being jerky, hesitant at low speeds, and generally unsuited to the relaxed, family-focused character the rest of the vehicle was projecting. It was one of the most persistent complaints surrounding this generation, and it was dragging down an otherwise capable SUV. Hyundai is addressing that with an important update by replacing the dual-clutch unit with a more traditional 8-speed torque converter automatic. On paper, that's exactly the kind of fix the Santa Fe needed. Torque converter automatics are generally smoother in stop-and-go traffic, more predictable during slow-speed maneuvers, and better matched to the kind of daily driving this vehicle is designed for. The issue is that the dual-clutch transmission's reputation had years to do real damage. Buyers who experienced the problems firsthand or who read the reviews are now carrying that skepticism into a decision about the updated model. It's going to take time for real-world ownership data to confirm whether the new gearbox has fully resolved the rough shifting complaints or whether some of that behavior is still servicing under certain conditions. The Hyundai Santa Fe is far from a bad vehicle. Its bold design, well-appointed cabin, generous standard equipment, and strong warranty coverage make it a genuinely competitive option in a crowded segment. But a cramped third row that struggles to accommodate adults, real-world fuel economy that falls well short of EPA estimates, intrusive wind noise at highway speeds, steering that lacks meaningful road feel, rear sightlines that depend heavily on camera technology, and a transmission history that is only now being corrected. Knowing those trade-offs going in isn't a reason to walk away automatically, but it is a reason to cross-shop carefully before making a decision this size. With all these limiting factors, you might presume that the Santa Fe's closest relative could be a better choice, but that's not the case. Of course, we are talking about the Kia Sorento, which comes with several weak points that seriously question its status as one of the best values in the market.